Welcome, brave souls, to a realm where the line between reality and nightmare blurs. A place where the horrors you'll hear tonight are not stitched together from the fabric of imagination, but are drawn from the chilling shadows of real life. This is Mr. Legendary, where true terror finds a voice, and the darkness welcomes all who dare to listen. Tonight, you embark on a journey through 3 authentic tales of horror, each more disturbing, more unforgettable than the last. But be warned, once you begin, there is no turning back. Let the darkness take you, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. The first tale begins in the picturesque countryside of New England, where the Harper family was searching for their dream home. The leaves had begun to turn, painting the world in shades of gold and crimson, and the air held the crisp promise of autumn. When the Harpers discovered a 2-story Victorian house nestled in a quiet Massachusetts town, it felt like fate. The house stood proud, its white paint peeling just so, with a wraparound porch and a yard big enough for their children to play. The price, surprisingly affordable, seemed almost like a gift. "It's old but solid," the real estate agent assured them, voice echoing in the empty halls as they toured the house. And so, the Harpers moved in, their laughter filling the rooms and smoke curling from the chimney as the first fire of the season crackled to life. For a time, it was perfect. But perfection is often a mask, and beneath it, something darker can lurk. It started as a faint sound, almost imperceptible, a gentle tapping, like the hesitant knock of a visitor unsure if they're welcome. Tap, tap, tap. At first, James Harper dismissed it as the house settling, old pipes knocking in the night. But as the days passed, the sound grew louder, more insistent. Always after midnight, always from the same wall in the upstairs hallway, James called in a plumber, who shook his head and found nothing amiss. Pest control tore through the attic and basement, searching for signs of rodents, but turned up empty-handed. The family tried to ignore it, but the tapping persisted, growing bolder each night. Then one evening, as the wind howled outside and the children slept fitfully, James heard something new. A voice, so faint he thought he'd imagined it. A whisper, carried on the cold draft that slipped beneath the door. "Let me out!" Panic gripped him. He pressed his ear to the wall, heart hammering in his chest, and heard it again. "Let me out!" The words were desperate, pleading. Unable to bear it any longer, James and his wife, Anna, armed themselves with crowbars and flashlights. They tore into the drywall, their hands trembling as dust filled the air. Behind the insulation, they uncovered something no one had expected. A door, sealed shut, its edges hidden for decades. The police arrived, their faces grim as they broke through the barrier. What they found was a small, windowless room. The air was thick with the scent of mold and decay. In the center lay a filthy, stained mattress. The walls were covered in childish drawings, scratched into the plaster, stick figures, houses, and faces twisted in agony. There were no records, no clues as to who had lived or died within those walls. Just the silent echoes of suffering, long past but never forgotten. Traumatized, the Harpers decided to leave. On their final night, as they closed the door and prepared to walk away from their dream-turned-nightmare, the house seemed to sigh, and then, from deep within the walls, they heard it one last time. Tap, tap, tap. From inside. The Harper family never returned, and the house stands empty to this day. But sometimes, late at night, neighbors swear they hear tapping and a faint, desperate whisper carried on the wind. The second story takes us into the heart of modern suburbia, where innocence and technology collided with something unspeakable. Emily was 8 years old, a bright and playful child who loved nothing more than capturing the world around her on her iPad. Her bedroom was filled with laughter, stuffed animals, and the soft glow of her favorite nightlight. For Emily, selfies were a game, a way to preserve moments of joy. One evening, her mother, Jessica, was scrolling through Emily's photos when she stopped cold. In one of the images, taken in the soft light of dusk, Emily smiled at the camera, but behind her, partially obscured by shadows, stood a man. His face was pale, his eyes wide and unblinking, his expression unreadable. Jessica's heart raced. She rushed to her daughter, demanding to know who the man was. Emily looked confused, shaking her head. "I don't know him," she whispered. That night, as Jessica tucked her in, Emily clung to her mother and whispered, "He's sitting by my bed." Jessica searched the room but found nothing. Still, unease gnawed at her. She decided to install a nanny cam, hoping to put her fears to rest. The footage she captured was more horrifying than anything she could have imagined. At 2:45 a.m., the camera showed Emily sleeping peacefully. Then, from beneath the bed, a man slid out. Slowly, silently. He sat on the edge of the mattress, his pale hand reaching out to brush Emily's hair. For several minutes, he watched her, unmoving. Then, just as quietly, he crawled back underneath the bed. Jessica called the police, her voice shaking with terror. The authorities searched the house, and after days of investigation, they found him. In the crawl space beneath the floorboards, he had made a nest. Blankets, food wrappers, and a journal filled with rambling entries. He had been living there for weeks, watching the family, waiting. Jessica sold the house immediately. Emily, once fearless, now sleeps with all the lights on. And Jessica? She checks every selfie, every photo, searching for shadows that don't belong. But some nights, when the wind rattles the windows, she swears she hears footsteps in the hall and wonders if some nightmares ever truly end. Our final tale is one of friendship, loss, and a promise that death could not break. Lisa, Brandon, and Kayla were inseparable, bound by years of shared memories and inside jokes. One summer, they set out on a camping trip, choosing a site near an abandoned cemetery in rural Texas. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the hum of insects, and the three friends spent the night telling ghost stories and laughing beneath the stars. As the fire burned low, Brandon proposed a pact, a joke, or so they thought at the time. "If one of us dies," he said, grinning, "we have to promise to contact the others from the other side, just to prove there's something after." They laughed, raising their drinks to the night sky. None of them thought they'd ever have to keep that promise. 3 months later, tragedy struck. Brandon died in a car accident, his life cut short in an instant. The grief was overwhelming, and Lisa and Kayla struggled to move on. Then one night, Lisa's phone rang. The screen lit up with Brandon's name. She answered, her voice trembling, but all she heard was breathing. Slow, steady, unmistakably human. In the days that followed, the messages began. Texts filled with jokes only Brandon would know, references to their camping trip, and even a photo. One they had taken together, now altered. In the image, a ghostly hand rested on Lisa's shoulder, its fingers translucent and cold. Desperate for answers, Lisa and Kayla returned to the cemetery. As the clock struck 3:03 a.m., the time Brandon had died, they watched in horror as footprints appeared in the dew, leading from his grave to their tent. A final message buzzed on Lisa's phone. "I kept the pact." Shaken, Lisa deleted the texts, but the memories lingered. Sometimes when her phone's battery dips to 3%, she hears breathing. Soft, insistent, as if someone is waiting on the other end. These stories are not legends, not the product of fevered imagination or campfire tales. They are real. They're echoes lingering in the places we call home, in the technology we trust, and in the promises we make to those we love. They remind us that the world is far stranger and far more terrifying than we care to admit. So, if your skin has crawled, if your heart has raced, if you find yourself glancing over your shoulder or checking the shadows in your room, you are not alone. Darkness is always waiting, just beyond the light, and the next nightmare is only a heartbeat away. If you hunger for more true tales of terror, don't face the night alone. Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here at Mr. Legendary, the horrors are real and the darkness is always hungry for new souls. Remember, the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. Sleep well, if you can.